The Hippocrates drifted through the dark space between stars like a giant white whale. The massive ship stretched over 2 kilometers long and was covered in red crosses that glowed bright against its clean hull. Inside the ship, thousands of people worked day and night to save lives from across the galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked down the main medical corridor, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She had been the chief medical officer for 3 years now, and every day brought new challenges. The ship's lights were dim during night shift, but the medical bays never truly slept. Somewhere, someone always needed help. Elena stopped at a window and looked out at the stars. The outer rim territories were dangerous places. 3 different alien empires were fighting each other, and smaller species got caught in the middle. That was why ships like the Hippocrates existed. They went where others feared to go, bringing medicine and hope to anyone who needed it. The ship's computer made a soft beeping sound. Elena touched the wall panel and Captain Hayes' voice came through. "Doc, we got a problem. Emergency signal." Coming in from Sector 7, Elena pressed the talk button. "What kind of emergency? Looks like a ship got hit bad. Multiple life signs, but they're getting weaker. Thing is, it's a Zephyrian cruiser." Elena felt her stomach tighten. The Zephyrians were crystal-based aliens who looked like living glass sculptures. They were also at war with Earth and its colonies. Helping them could get the Hippocrates in. "Serious trouble? How many survivors?" she asked. "Scans show maybe 60, 70 beings. Hard to tell with Zephyrian biology. Their ship is losing power fast." Elena closed her eyes. The rules were simple. The Hippocrates helped everyone, no matter what species they were or which side they fought for. But rules were easier to follow when people weren't shooting at each other. "Set course for the distress signal," she said. "I'll prep the medical teams." "Doc, you sure about this? Command won't be happy if they find out we're patching up the enemy." "Captain, our job is to save lives. That Zephyrian ship has people on it who are dying right now. We can worry about politics later." There was a pause. Then Hayes said, "Understood. Changing course now. We'll be there in 2 hours." Elena switched off the communicator and started walking fast toward the main medical bay. She needed to get her teams ready for something they had never done before. Treating Zephyrians was tricky. Their bodies were made of living crystal that could break like glass. One wrong move and a patient could shatter into pieces. The medical bay doors slid open as Elena entered. The huge room was filled with beds, machines, and medical equipment from a dozen different worlds. Dr. Kim was checking supplies while Nurse Peterson ran tests on the emergency surgical units. "Listen up, everyone," Elena called out. "We have incoming casualties. 60 to 70 Zephyrian survivors from a damaged cruiser." The room went quiet. Dr. Kim looked up from his supply list. "Zephyrians? Elena, we've never treated their species before. Their physiology is completely different from anything we know." "I know. That's why we need to work fast and smart." "Peterson, get me everything we have on Zephyrian anatomy." "Kim, prep the isolation units. Their crystal bodies need different atmospheric pressure than ours." "What about the war?" asked Dr. Torres from across the room. "Last I heard, the Zephyrian Empire was pushing hard against our border colonies." Elena looked around the room at her team. These were good people who had signed up to help others even when it was dangerous. "The war is not our problem right now. Dying people are our problem. We took an oath to do no harm and to help those who need it. That oath doesn't come with a list of exceptions." The team nodded and got to work. Elena watched them move with the smooth efficiency that came from years of practice. They had treated humans, of course, but also Altarians with their 4 hearts, Kepler natives who breathed methane, and even the slug-like gastropods from the Vega system. Each species brought new challenges, but humans had one advantage. They were tough. Humans came from a death world, a planet where everything tried to kill them. That made them very good at staying alive when things went wrong. It also made them very good at keeping other people alive when things went wrong. The ship's engines hummed louder as they picked up speed. Elena felt a slight pull of acceleration and knew they were racing toward the damaged Zephyrian ship. Time was important. Crystal-based life forms were fragile. When they got hurt, they usually died fast. "Dr. Vasquez to the bridge," came Hayes' voice over the ship's speakers. Elena made her way to the command center. Captain Hayes was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his days as a combat medic. He had seen plenty of action. "Before taking command of the Hippocrates, what's our status?" Elena asked. Hayes pointed at the main screen. It showed a long, elegant ship that looked like it was made of blue glass. Parts of it were dark, and Elena could see holes in the hull, where weapons had hit it. "The Zephyrian cruiser Bright Wind. Looks like they ran into a Korath patrol. Those lizard bastards don't take prisoners." Elena studied the damaged ship. The Korath were known for their brutal fighting style. They thought mercy was weakness, and healing your enemies was stupid. If they had attacked this ship, they probably expected everyone on it to die. "Any sign of the Korath ships?" "Negative. Looks like they hit and ran. Probably thought they finished the job." The Hippocrates moved closer to the damaged cruiser. Elena could see the ship more clearly now. The Zephyrians built their vessels to look beautiful, with smooth curves and crystal growths that caught starlight. This one was a mess. Huge chunks were missing from the hull, and internal light flickered weakly through cracks in the walls. "Hailing them now," said the communications officer. The main screen changed to show the bridge of the Zephyrian ship. The aliens who appeared looked like they were made of blue-green crystal. Their bodies caught light and threw it back in rainbow patterns. But these Zephyrians were hurt. Elena could see cracks running through their crystal skin, and some were missing pieces of themselves. The Zephyrian captain spoke in a voice like wind chimes. The computer translated his words into English. "Human vessel, this is Captain Resonance. Of the Bright Wind, we did not expect to see your kind here." Hayes stepped forward. "This is Captain Hayes of the medical vessel Hippocrates. We received your distress signal. We're here to help." "Help?" The alien captain's crystal head tilted in confusion. "But our peoples are at war. Why would you help us?" Elena moved into view of the camera. "Because you're hurt, and we're doctors. War doesn't change that." The Zephyrian captain was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "We have many wounded, some are breaking apart. If you truly mean to help us, please hurry." "We'll dock with your ship in 10 minutes, Hayes said. "Prepare. You're wounded for transport." The screen went dark. Elena looked at Hayes. "Think it's a trap?" Hayes shrugged. "Maybe. But look at that ship. If it is a trap, it's the most expensive one I've ever seen. Besides, the Zephyrians aren't known for tricks. They're too proud for that kind of thing." Elena nodded. "The Zephyrians were warriors, but they fought with honor. If they said they needed help, they probably really needed it." "I'm going over with the first medical team," Elena said. "Like hell you are." "You're too. Important to risk." "Those people are dying, Captain. I'm the only one on this ship who has studied crystal-based biology. If anyone can figure out how to save them, it's me." Hayes looked like he wanted to argue, but he knew Elena was right. "Fine, but you take a full security escort?" "Deal." Elena hurried back to the medical bay. Her team was ready. They had loaded emergency medical supplies onto transport sleds and prepared portable treatment units. Dr. Kim had found the files on Zephyrian anatomy and was studying them on his tablet. "What do we know about their biology?" Elena asked. "It's weird," Kim said. "Their bodies are made of living crystal that can grow and change shape. When they get hurt, pieces can break off. The good news is that if we can stabilize the main crystal matrix, the broken pieces can grow back. The bad news is that if too much breaks off, the whole organism falls apart." "Like a chain reaction?" "Exactly. Once it starts, it's hard to stop." Elena felt the ship shudder slightly as the docking clamps engaged with the Zephyrian cruiser. "Okay, people. We're about to make history. No one has ever tried to treat this many Zephyrians before. Stay calm, work smart, and remember that these people are counting on us." The airlock doors opened with a hiss. Elena led her team through the connecting tunnel and into the alien ship. The first thing she noticed was the light. Everything inside? The Zephyrian vessel glowed with soft, colorful radiance. The walls, the floor, even the air seemed to shimmer. The second thing she noticed was the damage. Blast holes in the crystal walls showed the dark space outside. Emergency barriers had been put up, but they were failing. The ship was slowly losing atmosphere. The third thing she noticed was the Zephyrians themselves. They were everywhere, and they were hurt bad. Some had large cracks running through their crystal bodies. Others were missing arms or legs. A few were lying in pieces, their crystal fragments scattered across the floor. One of the aliens approached Elena. This one was mostly intact, with only small cracks in her crystal skin. She spoke in the wind chime language, and Elena's translator turned it into words. I am Healer Clarity. I have been trying to treat the wounded, but I do not know enough. We have never faced damage like this before. Elena looked around at the injured Zephyrians. How many wounded? 73. 15 are breaking apart quickly. They will die soon if nothing is done. Show me the worst cases first. Clarity led Elena through the ship to a large room where the most seriously injured Zephyrians were lying on crystal platforms. Elena had never seen anything like it. These aliens were literally falling apart. She could see stress fractures spreading through their bodies like cracks in a windshield. Dr. Kim, set up the stabilization field generators. Dr. Torres, start 4 drips with the crystal growth hormone we synthesized. Everyone else, begin assessment of the wounded. Elena knelt next to one of the dying Zephyrians. The alien was young, maybe the equivalent of a teenager. Half of his left side was missing, and cracks were spreading toward his core. What's your name? Elena asked softly. Harmony, the young alien whispered. Am I going to die? Elena looked at the spreading cracks. By all rights, this patient should already be dead. But she had learned something important during her years in space medicine. The universe was full of surprises, and sometimes the impossible became possible if you worked hard enough. Not if I can help it, Elena said. She activated her medical scanner and began to work. Around the room, her team was doing the same thing. They moved with calm efficiency, treating injuries that would have been impossible to heal just a few years ago. The Zephyrians watched in amazement as the humans worked to save lives that their own healers had given up on. This was what humans did best, Elena thought as she carefully injected crystal growth serum into Harmony's damaged matrix. They took impossible situations and made them possible through sheer, stubborn determination. The question was whether they would have enough time to finish the job before someone else decided to interfere. Elena worked for 2 hours straight on the young Zephyrian named Harmony. The crystal growth serum was helping, but slowly. She could see new crystal forming at the edges of his wounds, but the cracks were still spreading faster than the healing could keep up. Dr. Vasquez, called Dr. Kim from across the room. I think I figured something out. The crystal matrix responds better to harmonic frequencies. If we can match the right sound waves to their biology, we might be able to speed up the healing. Elena looked up from her patient. What kind of frequencies? Each Zephyrian seems to have their own resonance pattern, like a musical note that matches their body. When I played the right tone, the crystal growth increased by 30%. How do we find the right frequency for each patient? Dr. Kim held up a small device, modified medical scanner. It reads their natural vibration and plays it back through speakers. Elena smiled. This was why she loved working with humans. When faced with a problem they had never seen before, they found creative solutions. Do it. Start with the most critical patients. Around the room, the human medical team was saving lives that should have been lost. Dr. Torres had figured out how to use microlasers to seal cracks in crystal skin. Nurse Peterson was using a magnetic field generator to hold crystal fragments in place while they regrew. Even the security guards were helping, carefully collecting broken pieces of Zephyrian patients so the doctors could reattach them. The Zephyrian healer named Clarity watched everything with amazement. How do you do this? She asked Elena. Your species is so different from ours. How do you understand our bodies well enough to heal them? Elena wiped sweat from her forehead. We study hard and we improvise. Humans are good at adapting to new situations. But you have never treated our kind before. Yet you work as if you have done this for years. That's because healing is healing, Elena said. The basic principles are the same no matter what species you're working with. Stop the damage, stabilize the patient, and help the body repair itself. The details change, but the goal stays the same. Clarity's crystal head tilted in a way that Elena had learned meant curiosity. Your people are known as warriors. Yet you risk your lives to save your enemies. This does not make sense to me. Elena looked around at her team. They were tired and stressed, but they kept working. None of them had complained about treating aliens from a hostile empire. To them, this was just another day at work. Being good at fighting and being good at healing aren't opposites, Elena said. Both require you to understand how bodies work and how to act fast under pressure. The only difference is what you're trying to accomplish. Before Clarity could respond, the ship's emergency alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed on the walls, and Elena heard Captain Hayes' voice over the communicator. All medical teams. We have a problem. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Looks like a Korath battle group. Elena felt her blood turn cold. The Korath were the most aggressive species in this part of the galaxy. They believed that showing mercy to enemies made you weak. If they found humans healing Zephyrians, they would attack without asking questions. How many ships? Elena asked into her communicator. 6 vessels. 3 destroyers, 2 cruisers, and 1 dreadnought. They're moving fast and their weapons are charging. Elena looked at her patients. Harmony was still critical, but stable. Around the room, other Zephyrians were getting better thanks to the harmonic healing technique. But they still needed hours of work to be completely safe. Captain, how long? Until they reach us? 20 minutes, maybe less. Dr. Kim came over to Elena. We need to evacuate. Get our people back to the Hippocrates and run? Elena shook her head. We can't move these patients yet. Half of them would die during transport. Elena, if we stay here, we might all die. The Korath don't negotiate. Elena looked at the Zephyrian patients. Some were starting to sit up as their crystal bodies healed. Others were still lying in pieces, depending on human medicine to keep them alive. If the medical team left now, most of these people would be dead within an hour. We're not leaving, Elena said firmly. But Elena, we're not leaving, she repeated. These people trusted us to save their lives. That's what we're going to do. Elena activated her communicator. Captain Hayes, this is Dr. Vasquez. We're staying. With our patients? There was a long pause. Then Hayes said, Doc, that's suicide. The Korath will kill everyone on both ships. Maybe, but if we run now, our patients die for sure. At least this way we have a chance. Another pause. Understood. We'll do what we can to protect you. Elena knew that wasn't much. The Hippocrates was a hospital ship, not a warship. It had shields and some basic weapons, but nothing that could fight off 6 Korath military vessels. Clarity had been listening to the conversation. Doctor, you cannot sacrifice yourselves for us. We are enemies of your people. No, Elena said. Right now you're our patients. That makes you our responsibility. The Zephyrian healer stared at Elena with crystal eyes that reflected the emergency lights. I do not understand your species. You don't have to understand us. You just have to let us do our job. Elena went back to work on Harmony. The young Zephyrian was conscious now, and his crystal body was slowly rebuilding itself. The harmonic therapy was working better than she had hoped. Doctor, Harmony said in his wind chime voice, the Korath are coming for us, aren't they? Yes, you should leave us and save yourselves. We are already dead. Our ship cannot fight, and theirs can. Elena adjusted the harmonic frequency generator. You're not dead? Not while we're here. But why? Why risk your lives for us? Our peoples are at war. Elena thought about how to explain it. Do you know what humans call our home planet? Earth, I believe. We also call it something else, a death world. Everything on our planet tries to kill us. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria. For millions of years, humans had to fight just to survive each day. That sounds terrible. It was. But it taught us something important. When everything is trying to kill you, you learn. To value life, every day you wake up alive is a victory. Every person who survives is a success. Elena made a small adjustment to Harmony's treatment. That's why we became good at medicine. We learned that life is precious because we almost lost it so many times. But we are your enemies. Right now, you're a patient with crystal matrix failure who needs medical attention. Everything else is politics. The ship shook as the Korath. Vessels moved closer. Elena could hear weapons powering up in the distance. The enemy was almost here. All medical personnel, came Hayes' voice over the speakers. The Korath commander is demanding we surrender all Zephyrian survivors for interrogation. I told him to go to hell. Elena smiled despite the situation. Captain Hayes was a good man who understood what the Hippocrates stood for. Dr. Vasquez, came another voice over the communicator. It was rough and sounded like gravel in a cement mixer. That meant it was a Korath speaking. I am War Leader Skarn. You will surrender the enemy wounded to us immediately. Elena picked up the communicator. This is Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Medical Officer of the Hippocrates. Under Galactic medical neutrality laws, these people are under our protection. Human laws mean nothing to us. You have 5 minutes to comply or we will destroy both ships. These are not human laws. They are galactic laws recognized by all civilized species. The Korath laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Civilized? You heal our enemies and call it civilization? You are weak, soft creatures who do not understand war. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. We understand war just fine. We also understand that some things are more important than war. Nothing is more important than victory. In 5 minutes you will learn this truth. The communication ended. Elena looked around the medical bay. Her team was still working, but she could see the fear in their eyes. They all knew what Korath interrogation meant. The lizard aliens would torture the Zephyrian survivors for information, then kill them slowly. Dr. Kim came over to Elena. What do we do? Elena checked her chronometer. They had been working for almost 3 hours. Most of the Zephyrian patients were stable now, but they still needed more treatment to be completely safe. We keep working, Elena said. 5 minutes or 50 minutes, these people need medical attention. Elena, be reasonable. There's nothing we can do against 6 warships. Elena looked at him. Kim, do you remember your medical oath? Of course. First, do no harm. Right. And what would happen to these patients if we handed them over to the Korath? Kim's face went pale. They would be tortured and killed, so handing them over would cause harm. That means we can't do it. But staying here means we all die, Elena shrugged. Maybe, but at least we'll die doing the right thing. Around the room, the other human medical personnel nodded. None of them looked happy about the situation, but none of them argued either. They had all sworn the same oath, and they all understood what it meant. The young Zephyrian named Harmony tried to sit up. Doctor, please, do not die for us. We are not worth it. Elena gently pushed him back down. That's not your decision to make. You're my patient, which means I decide what you're worth. But no arguments. Right now, your job is to lie still and heal. My job is to make sure you have the chance to do that. The ship shook again as the Korath vessels moved into attack position. Elena could see their dark, angular ships through the windows. They looked like metal sharks circling wounded prey. Dr. Vasquez, came Captain Hayes' voice. Korath ships are powering weapons. They mean business. Elena picked up the communicator. Captain, are you planning to fight them? With what? We've got medical equipment and a handful of security guards. They've got enough firepower to level a city. So what's the plan? There was a long pause. Then Hayes said, Doc, I've been thinking about what you said earlier. About humans being good at adapting to new situations. What do you mean? I mean, maybe it's time to show these Korath bastards why you don't attack a human hospital ship. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. She knew that tone in Hayes' voice. It was the same tone he had used back when he was a combat medic, right? Before he did something crazy and dangerous. Captain, what are you planning? Something that's either going to save all our lives or get us all killed. Either way, it should be interesting. The Korath commander's voice came over the speakers. Again. Time is up, humans. Prepare to be boarded. Elena looked at her team, then at the Zephyrian patients who were depending on them. Whatever Hayes was planning, she hoped it worked. Because in a few minutes, they were all going to find out what happened when someone threatened a human medical crew who had sworn to protect their patients. The war was about to become very personal. The first Korath boarding pod slammed into the hull of the Hippocrates like metal fists. Elena felt the ship shake and heard the screech of cutting tools as the enemy soldiers began burning through the outer walls. All medical staff, this is... Hayes, came the captain's voice through the speakers. Execute Protocol 7. I repeat, execute Protocol 7. Elena's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was something they had discussed but never used. It was the emergency plan for when the hospital ship came under direct attack. She had always hoped they would never need it. What is Protocol 7? Asked Healer Clarity, the Zephyrian who had been watching the humans work. You're about to find out, Elena said. She grabbed her medical kit and started moving toward the wounded. Everyone, listen up. We're staying with our patients, but we're also going to defend them. Remember your training. Dr. Kim looked confused. What training? We're doctors, not soldiers. Kim, think about it. What do we know better than anyone else in the galaxy? Medicine? Exactly. We know how bodies work. We know how to fix them when they break. Elena pulled a small device from her medical kit. It looked like a normal surgical laser, but she had made some modifications. We also know how to break them when we need to. The lights in the medical bay suddenly changed from white to red. Emergency power had kicked in, which meant the main reactor was being diverted to other systems. Elena knew what that meant. Hayes was turning their medical equipment into weapons. Dr. Vasquez to engineering, Elena said into her communicator. Engineering here, came the reply. It was Chief Ramirez, the head of the ship's technical crew. How long until the conversion is complete? 10 minutes for the big stuff. The surgical lasers are ready now. The MRI units need more time. What? About the radiation therapy equipment? That's the tricky one. Give me 15 minutes and I can turn it into a particle beam that'll cut through their ship armor like paper. Elena smiled. Humans were very good at turning peaceful things into weapons when they needed to. It was a skill they had learned on. Their dangerous homeworld. The sound of cutting tools grew louder. The Korath were almost through the hull. Elena could hear their voices speaking in the harsh language that sounded like rocks scraping together. All patients who can move, get behind the medical equipment, Elena ordered. Everyone else, stay calm. We've handled worse than this. That wasn't true, but Elena had learned that confidence was often the best medicine. The first hole appeared. In the wall with a shower of sparks. Elena could see a Korath soldier on the other side, wearing heavy armor and carrying a weapon that looked like it could punch holes in Starship hulls. Remember, Elena whispered to her team, we know their biology. Korath have weak spots at the base of their skull and behind their front leg joints. Aim for those areas. The wall exploded inward and Korath soldiers poured through. They were big, standing over 2 meters tall, with thick scales and teeth like knives. Their armor was dark green and covered with spikes. Surrender, humans, shouted the lead soldier. Give us the enemy wounded and you will not be harmed. Elena stepped forward, holding her modified surgical laser. I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chief Medical Officer. These patients are under medical protection. You have no right to be here, the Korath soldier laughed. Rights? You speak of rights while healing our enemies? You're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, Elena said. But I'm also very good at my job. She fired the surgical laser. The beam was designed to cut through human tissue with perfect precision. Against Korath scales, it worked even better. The laser cut through the soldier's armor and hit the weak spot behind his left shoulder joint. He dropped his weapon and fell to the ground, paralyzed but alive. Now! Elena shouted. Her medical team moved with the same efficiency they used in surgery. Dr. Torres used a bone saw to cut through another soldier's weapon. Nurse Peterson sprayed medical sedative from a hypodermic injector, hitting 3 Korath in the face. Dr. Kim used a portable X-ray machine to blind the enemy soldiers with radiation. The Korath had expected to fight doctors and nurses. They hadn't expected to fight people who knew exactly where to hit them to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. "Fall back," shouted the Korath squad leader. "Regroup in the corridor." The enemy soldiers retreated, dragging their wounded with them. Elena's team had won the first round, but she knew more would come. "Status report," Elena said into her communicator. "Medical Bay 2 is holding," came Dr. Walsh's voice. "We used the surgical robots to tie up the boarding party. They're stuck in the ventilation system." "Medical Bay 4 here," said Dr. Patel. "We turned the MRI machine into an electromagnetic pulse generator. Fried all their equipment. They can't see, can't communicate, and half their weapons don't work." Elena felt a surge of pride. Her people were improvising brilliantly. They were turning their medical knowledge into tactical advantages. "Engineering to all stations," came Ramirez's voice. "Radiation therapy is online, targeting the Korath command ship now." Through the windows, Elena could see a bright blue beam lance out from the Hippocrates toward the largest enemy vessel. The beam was designed to deliver precise doses of radiation to cancer patients. Against a starship, it became a devastating weapon that could cook the crew inside their own armor. "Direct hit on the Korath dreadnought," reported Captain Hayes. "Their shields are down and they're venting atmosphere." The young Zephyrian named Harmony tried to sit up. "The humans are fighting back, but you are healers, not warriors." Elena helped him lie back down while keeping her laser rifle ready. "We're whatever we need to be to protect our patients. But how? Your ship is not built for war." Elena pointed at the medical equipment around them. "Harmony, what do you think this stuff is designed to do?" "Heal the sick and injured." "Right, and what do you need to know to heal someone?" The young alien thought for a moment. "You need to understand how bodies work." "Exactly. And if you know how bodies work, you also know how to make them stop working." Another group of Korath soldiers appeared at the hole in the wall. This time they moved more carefully, using shields and staying in formation. They had learned to respect the human medical team. "Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick," called their leader. Elena checked her surgical laser's power level. "Still good for another 20 shots. Sorry, but we're kind of busy right now. These patients need medical attention." "Then you will die with them." "Probably, but you'll die first." The Korath charged. Elena's team was ready for them. Dr. Kim had rigged a bone growth stimulator to work in reverse. Instead of growing bone, it dissolved it. He hit the lead soldier in the knee, and the alien collapsed as his leg bones turned to powder. Nurse Peterson had filled her hypodermic injectors with a mixture of medical drugs that would paralyze most species. She moved like a dancer, dodging Korath claws while injecting sedatives into weak points in their armor. Dr. Torres used a surgical cutting laser like a sword, slicing through weapons and armor with surgical precision. The Korath couldn't get close to him without losing pieces of their equipment. Elena coordinated the defense while continuing to treat patients. She had learned in medical school that doctors needed to be able to work under pressure. This was just more pressure than usual. "Dr. Vasquez," came Hayes' voice over the communicator. "We've got their attention. 3 of their ships are focusing fire on us. How are you doing down there?" "We're managing," Elena said while using her laser to cut through a Korath soldier's weapon. "Any word on evacuation?" "Negative." The Zephyrian ship is too damaged to move, and we can't transport your patients safely while under fire. Elena ducked as a Korath energy blast scorched the wall above her head. "Then we keep fighting. Doc, I need to tell you something. The engineering crew has been working on a special project. We're going to try something that's never been done before." "What kind of something?" "We're going to turn the entire medical bay into a weapon." Elena felt her blood go cold. Captain, what are you talking about? The medical scanners, the treatment beds, even the life support systems? Ramirez thinks we can link them all together and create a field that will affect every living thing in a 50-meter radius. That's insane. What kind of effect? That depends on what we want it to do. We could make everyone fall asleep or paralyze them or ... Hayes paused. Or we could make them very, very sick. Elena understood what he was suggesting. The Hippocrates could become a plague ship, using its medical knowledge to spread disease instead of curing it. It was a terrible idea that violated everything she believed in as a doctor. It was also probably their only chance of survival. How long do you need? Elena asked. 20 minutes. Can you hold out that long? Elena looked around the medical bay. Half her team was wounded, her supplies were running low, and more Korath soldiers were gathering in the corridor. But her patients were still alive, and that was what mattered. We'll hold, she said. The Korath attack came from 3 directions. At once, they had learned from their mistakes and were using proper military tactics. Elena's team was outnumbered and outgunned, but they had something the Korath didn't have. They had knowledge. They knew exactly how to hurt their enemies with minimum effort. More importantly, they knew why they were fighting. Elena stood over the wounded Zephyrian named Harmony, her surgical laser in one hand and a medical scanner in the other. Behind her, Dr. Kim was using a bone saw to cut through Korath armor. Nurse Peterson was spraying sedatives while Dr. Torres provided cover with his cutting laser. They were doctors and nurses, not soldiers. But they were also humans who had sworn an oath to protect their patients. And humans, Elena had learned, were very dangerous when they were defending something they cared about. 15 minutes. Hayes reported over the communicator. Elena looked at the advancing Korath soldiers. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime. But she had spent her career saving lives that everyone else had given up on. If anyone could make the impossible happen, it was a human medical team with their backs against the wall and their patients depending on them. Let's show them what happens when you attack a human hospital, Elena said, and opened fire. Elena ducked behind an overturned medical bed as another energy blast scorched the wall where her head had been. The Korath were getting smarter, using military tactics instead of just charging forward. They had brought heavier weapons and more. Soldiers. Dr. Vasquez, came Chief Ramirez's voice through her communicator. The field generator is almost ready. But I need to warn you about something. What now? Elena asked while reloading her surgical laser. This has never been tested before. When we activate the medical field, it's going to affect everyone in the area. Humans, Zephyrians, and Korath. Elena felt her stomach drop. What kind of effects? Best case, everyone falls asleep for a few hours. Worst case, ... Ramirez paused. Let's just say we really don't want to find out what the worst case is. Elena looked at her patients. The Zephyrians were healing well, but they were still fragile. A powerful medical field could kill them just as easily as it could save them. How precise can you make it? Elena asked. Not very. It's going to hit everything in a 50-meter radius. No way to protect specific individuals. Elena closed her eyes and made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Do it. But Doc, your patients. Chief, if we don't stop the Korath, my patients die anyway. At least this way they have a chance. Understood. Charging the field generator now. You have 5 minutes to prepare. Elena opened her eyes and looked at her team. Dr. Kim was behind a surgical table, using a medical scanner to target Korath. Weak spots. Nurse Peterson was crawling between patients, checking their vital signs while dodging enemy fire. Dr. Torres was at the main door, holding off another group of attackers with his modified cutting laser. Everyone, listen up, Elena called out. In 5 minutes, this room is going to become very dangerous for all of us. Get the patients as stable as possible and find hard cover. Dr. Kim looked confused. What's happening? We're going to turn this medical bay into a weapon. It might save us or it might kill us all. Either way, it's better than letting the Korath torture our patients. Elena crawled over to where Harmony was lying. The young Zephyrion was conscious and his crystal body was almost fully healed. The harmonic therapy had worked better than she had hoped, Doctor, Harmony said in his wind chime voice. What is going to happen to us? Elena checked his medical readings. His crystal matrix was stable, but still fragile. We're going to try something that's never been done before. It might hurt. Will we die? Elena was quiet for a moment. She had always tried to be honest with her patients, even when the truth was hard to hear. I don't know, maybe. Then why do it? Because the alternative is worse. Elena adjusted his life support systems to maximum protection. Harmony, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The young alien's crystal eyes reflected the emergency. Lights, you have already saved my life once. If you think this is our only chance, then I trust you. Elena felt tears in her eyes. This alien boy had more faith in her than she had in herself right now. All stations, this is Hayes, came the captain's voice over the speakers. The Korath commander is demanding surrender again. I told him we're busy saving lives and he can wait his turn. Elena almost smiled despite the situation. Captain Hayes never lost his sense of humor, even when facing impossible odds. Engineering to medical, came Ramirez's voice. Field generator is charged and ready. Just say when. Elena looked around the medical bay. Her team was in position, behind whatever cover they could find. The Zephyrian patients were as protected as possible. The Korath soldiers were gathering for another assault. 2 minutes, Elena said into her communicator. The Korath attack came early. A squad of heavily armored soldiers burst through the main door, firing energy weapons and throwing grenades. Behind them came more troops, including some wearing special environmental suits that Elena didn't recognize. They brought specialists, Dr. Torres shouted over the noise of weapons fire. Those suits look like they're designed to protect against biological weapons. Elena realized what that meant. The Korath had figured out what the humans were planning. They were prepared for a medical attack. Chief Ramirez, Elena said into her communicator. The Korath know what we're doing. They have protection. Maybe against normal biological weapons, came the reply. But they've never seen anything like this before. Trust me, Doc. A Korath soldier in environmental armor rounded Elena's cover and aimed his weapon at her. Elena dove to the side and fired her surgical laser, hitting him in the weak joint behind his knee. The alien went down, but his armor protected him from serious injury. More soldiers poured into the room. Elena's team was being overwhelmed. They had fought bravely, but they were doctors, not soldiers. The Korath were professionals who killed for a living. 1 minute, Elena reported. Dr. Vasquez, called Nurse Peterson from across the room. Harmony's readings are spiking. Something's wrong with his crystal matrix. Elena looked at the young Zephyrion. His body was glowing brighter than before, and she could see stress fractures appearing in his crystal skin. He's resonating with the field generator, Dr. Kim shouted. The medical field is affecting him before it's even activated. Elena crawled toward Harmony, dodging enemy fire. The boy's crystal body was vibrating like a tuning fork, and the vibrations were spreading. To the other Zephyrian patients? Chief, we have a problem, Elena said into her communicator. The field is interacting with Zephyrian biology in ways we didn't expect. What kind of interaction? Elena watched as Harmony's body began to glow even brighter. The other Zephyrians was starting to vibrate too, their crystal forms resonating with some frequencies she couldn't detect. I think they're amplifying the field, Elena said. Acting like living crystals in a radio, that could be good or bad. A Korath soldier appeared beside Elena and grabbed her by the arm. She turned and fired her laser point blank into his face, hitting the weak spot at the base of his skull. He collapsed, but more were coming. 30 seconds, Elena reported. The Zephyrians were glowing so brightly now that it hurt to look at them. The resonance was building to dangerous levels. Elena could feel it in her bones, a deep vibration that seemed to shake her apart from the inside. Elena, gasped Harmony, something is happening to us. We can feel ... everything. What do you mean? Every living thing on both ships, every heartbeat, every breath. We are connected to all of it. Elena understood what was happening. The medical field was using the Zephyrians as conductors, spreading its effect far beyond the intended range. Instead of affecting just the medical bay, it was going to hit both ships. "Chief, abort the field activation," Elena said. "Too late," came Ramirez's voice. "It's already started." "The field is building power, and I can't stop it." Elena looked around the room. The Korath soldiers were still advancing, but some of them had stopped and were holding their heads as if in pain. The medical field was starting to affect them. "Everyone take cover," Elena shouted. "This is going to be bad." The field activated with a sound like thunder mixed with music. Elena felt it wash over her like a wave of electricity that went straight to her nervous system. Every nerve in her body fired at once, sending signals that her brain couldn't process. Around the room, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Korath soldiers dropped their weapons and fell to the ground, their reptilian bodies convulsing. But they weren't dying. Instead, they seemed to be experiencing every sensation at once. The Zephyrians glowed like small suns, their crystal bodies channeling and amplifying the medical field. Through them, Elena could feel the effect spreading throughout both ships. Every living thing was connected in a web of sensation and shared experience. Elena felt dizzy and confused. The field was designed to affect biological systems, and her human nervous system was being overloaded with information. She could sense the heartbeats of everyone around her, feel their pain and fear and confusion. But she could also feel something else. The field wasn't just affecting their bodies. It was affecting their minds, creating connections between different species that had never existed before. Through the Zephyrian resonance, Elena could feel what the Korath soldiers were experiencing. Their pain, their confusion, their fear, but also their memories, their thoughts, their reasons for fighting. She saw through their eyes the destruction of Korath colony worlds. She felt their anger at losing family members to enemy attacks. She understood their belief that strength was the only thing that mattered in a hostile universe. But the Korath were feeling her thoughts too. They were experiencing her dedication to saving lives, her refusal to abandon patients even when facing death. They were feeling the human concept of mercy, the idea that healing enemies could be an act of strength rather than weakness. The field reached its peak intensity. Elena felt like her consciousness was scattered across both ships, experiencing life through dozens of different perspectives at once. She was human and Zephyrian and Korath all at the same time. Then, gradually, the intensity began to fade. The glowing from the Zephyrians dimmed. The overwhelming flood of sensation became manageable. Elena found herself lying on the floor of the medical bay, her head pounding but her thoughts clear. Around her, Korath soldiers were slowly getting to their feet. But they weren't reaching for their weapons. Instead, they were looking around, with expressions of confusion and wonder, as if seeing the world clearly for the first time. One of them, a large warrior with scars covering his scales, approached Elena slowly. His movements were careful, almost respectful. "Human healer," he said in rough but understandable English. We felt what you feel, the dedication to preserve life. We did not understand before." Elena sat up carefully, her head still spinning from the experience. "Do you understand now?" The Korath warrior looked at the Zephyrian patients, who were now sitting up and looking around in amazement. "We felt their pain when we attacked them. We felt your determination to save them despite the danger to yourselves. We felt ... He paused, struggling with unfamiliar concepts. "We felt what you call compassion." Elena got to her feet slowly. Around the room, her medical team was checking on patients and equipment. The Korath soldiers were helping them, moving with the same careful efficiency they had used for destruction. "What happens now?" Elena asked. The Korath warrior looked at his soldiers, then back at Elena. "Now we learn. You have shown us something we thought was weakness. But feeling it ourselves, we understand it is a different kind of strength." Elena nodded and went to check on Harmony. The young Zephyrian was sitting up, his crystal body stable and healthy. "Doctor," he said, "that was the most amazing thing I have ever experienced. For a moment we were all connected. All the same." Elena smiled despite her exhaustion. Maybe that's what healing really means. Not just fixing bodies, but helping people understand each other. The medical field had done more than stop the attack. It had created something unprecedented in galactic history. For the first time, different species had truly felt what it was like to be someone else. And that, Elena realized, might be the most powerful medicine of all. 3 days after the incident, Elena stood in the main conference room of the Galactic Medical Council station. The room was filled with representatives from dozens of species, all wanting to understand what had happened aboard the Hippocrates. The Korath delegation sat on one side of the room, their dark scales and sharp teeth making them look as dangerous as ever. But Elena could see something different in their eyes now. There was a thoughtfulness there that hadn't existed before. On the other side sat the Zephyrian representatives, their crystal bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. Harmony was among them, fully healed and serving. As a witness to the events, at the center of the room sat the human delegation, which consisted of Elena, Captain Hayes, and Chief Ramirez. They had been called to explain their actions and face possible charges of violating medical neutrality, the council chairman. A tall insectoid being from the mantis cluster spoke in a voice like rustling leaves. "Dr. Vasquez, you stand accused of using medical equipment as weapons and endangering non-combatant patients. How do you answer these charges?" Elena stood up. She had prepared for this moment, but she still felt nervous. The future of human medical missions might depend on what she said next. "Chairman, everything we did was in service of protecting our patients. When the Korath forces threatened to take our patients for interrogation and execution, we had two choices: abandon them to die or defend them with whatever means we had available." "But you used medical equipment as weapons," said a representative from the Altair Union. "This violates every principle of medical neutrality." "No," Elena said. Firmly, "we used our knowledge to protect lives. The equipment was just tools. The important thing was our purpose." War leader Skarn, the Korath commander who had led the attack, stood up. His massive form dominated that side of the room, but when he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. "I must speak," he said. "Before the incident, we believed that healing enemies was weakness. We thought the humans were soft and foolish. We were wrong." The room grew quiet. Elena had heard that Skarn had changed since the medical field incident, but seeing it firsthand was still surprising. "When the human medical field affected us," Skarn continued, "we experienced something we had never felt before. We felt the pain of those we had hurt. We felt the dedication of those who heal rather than harm. We understood that protecting life requires a different kind of courage than taking it." He turned to look at Elena. "Dr. Vasquez and her team did not attack us. They showed us what we truly were. And they showed us what we could become." Harmony stood up from the Zephyrian section. "If I may speak, Chairman, I was dying when the human medical team found us. Not just my body, but my spirit. We had given up hope. But these humans never gave up on us, even when it meant risking their own lives." The young Zephyrian's crystal body chimed softly as he spoke. "What happened on that ship was not an attack. It was healing on a level we had never imagined possible. They healed not just our bodies, but our understanding of each other." The council chairman rustled his wings thoughtfully. "Dr. Vasquez, this medical field you created, can it be used again?" Elena looked at Chief Ramirez, who shook his head slightly. "Chairman, what we did was unrepeatable. It required perfect conditions, equipment that was damaged in specific ways, and the unique biology of the Zephyrian patients to amplify the effect. We couldn't create the same field again if we tried. And would you want to?" asked the Altarian representative. Elena thought about that question. The medical field had stopped the fighting and created understanding between enemies. But it had also been incredibly dangerous. Any of them could have died or suffered permanent brain damage. "No," Elena said finally. "What we did was a desperate last resort. It worked, but it could just as easily have killed everyone involved. Medical treatment should be about healing, not forcing people to think differently." "But the results speak for themselves," said a representative from the Centauri Republic. The Korath Empire has agreed to a ceasefire with both the Zephyrian Empire and the Terran Federation. They're even requesting medical exchange programs, War Leader Skarn nodded. We have much to learn about healing. We wish to send our young warriors to study with human medical teams. Not to learn new ways of fighting, but to learn new ways of thinking about strength. Elena felt a mixture of pride and worry. She was glad that the incident had led to peace, but she was concerned about the implications. She didn't want human medical knowledge to be seen as a weapon, even a weapon for peace. Chairman, Elena said, I want to make something clear. What happened on the Hippocrates was not planned. We didn't set out to change anyone's mind or create understanding between species. We set out to save lives, and we did what we had to do to protect our patients. And that, said a new voice from the back of the room, is exactly why it worked. Everyone turned to see who had spoken. A figure in a simple brown robe walked down the aisle toward the front of the room. Elena didn't recognize the species, but the being moved with a calm authority that commanded respect. I am Observer Tau, the figure said. I represent the Philosophical Council of the Inner Worlds. We have been studying the Hippocrates incident, and we have reached some interesting conclusions. Observer Tau reached the front of the room and turned to face the assembly. Elena could see now that the being was vaguely humanoid, with gray skin and large, dark eyes. The effectiveness of the human medical team did not come from their equipment, or their knowledge, though both were impressive. It came from their absolute commitment to their purpose. They were willing to die to protect their patients. That level of dedication is rare in the galaxy. The observer looked directly at Elena. Dr. Vasquez, you and your team demonstrated something that many species have forgotten. The idea that some principles are worth more than your own life. Elena felt uncomfortable with the praise. We were just doing our job. Exactly, Observer Tau said. You were doing your job even when it would have been easier and safer to stop. Even when following orders would have meant abandoning your patients. Even when staying meant almost certain death. The observer turned to address the full assembly. This is why the medical field worked. It didn't force anyone to think differently. It simply allowed them to feel what the humans felt. The dedication, the compassion, the absolute refusal to give up on those who needed help. War Leader Skarn spoke up again. Before the incident, we thought compassion was weakness because we had never truly felt it. We thought healing enemies was foolish because we did not understand the strength it required. He looked around the room. Now we know better. The humans showed us that protecting life is the highest form of strength. Not because they told us, but because they lived it. The council chairman rustled his wings again. This is all very philosophical. But we still need to address the practical questions. Dr. Vasquez, will you continue to operate in contested territories? Elena looked at Captain Hayes, who nodded slightly. Yes, Chairman. The Hippocrates will continue to provide medical aid to any species that needs it, regardless of politics or military conflicts. Even after what happened? You could have been killed. Chairman, people are still getting hurt out there. They still need medical care. The fact that it's dangerous doesn't change that. But you will be more careful about using medical equipment as weapons? Elena smiled. Chairman, we didn't use medical equipment as weapons. We used medical equipment to practice medicine. The fact that it stopped the fighting was a side effect of healing, not the goal. Observer Tau nodded approvingly. An important distinction. The humans did not set out to create peace. They set out to save lives. Peace was simply the natural result of their actions. The council chairman called for a short recess while the representatives discussed their decision. Elena walked over to where Harmony was sitting with the other Zephyrians. How are you feeling? She asked. Different, Harmony said. The experience changed all of us, not just physically but mentally. We understand things now that we never understood before. Good things or bad things? Both. We understand pain better, which is bad. But we also understand healing better, which is good. And we understand that sometimes you must accept pain in order to help others avoid it. Elena nodded. That's a hard lesson to learn. But an important one, Dr. Vasquez, what will happen to the Hippocrates now? We'll keep doing what we've always done, helping people who need help. Even though it's dangerous? Elena looked around the room at all the different species represented. Some were allies, some were enemies, and some were neutral. But all of them were capable of getting hurt, and all of them deserved medical care when they needed it. Especially because it's dangerous, Elena said. The people who need help the most are usually the ones in the most dangerous situations. The council chairman called the session back to order. After deliberation, we have reached our decision. Dr. Vasquez, the charges against you are dismissed. The council recognizes that your actions, while unusual, were taken in defense of patients under your care. Elena felt relief wash over her. However, the chairman continued, we are implementing new protocols for medical ships operating in contested territories. You will be required to carry neutral observers and maintain detailed records of any non-standard procedures. Understood, Chairman. We are also establishing a new program for interspecies medical cooperation. The Korath Empire has requested to participate, as have several other species. Dr. Vasquez, would you be willing to oversee this program? Elena looked at War Leader Skarn, who nodded respectfully. The idea of teaching former enemies how to heal instead of hurt appealed to her. I would be honored, Chairman. As the session ended, Elena found herself surrounded by representatives from different species, all wanting to know more about human medical techniques. But what struck her most was the look in their eyes. There was a new respect there, not just for human medicine, but for the principles behind it. Captain Hayes came up beside her. So, Doc, ready to head back out? Elena looked at Harmony, who was talking excitedly with some of the Korath representatives about crystal healing techniques. She looked at War Leader Skarn, who was asking Dr. Kim about human anatomy. She looked at all the different species in the room, working together instead of fighting. Yeah, Elena said. Let's go save some lives. As they walked toward the exit, Elena thought about the new motto that had been painted on the Hippocrates hull. We'll save your life even if it kills you. It had started as a joke, but Elena realized it was also the truth. Humans would go to extraordinary lengths to preserve life, even when it put them in danger. And sometimes, just sometimes, that stubborn dedication to healing could accomplish what weapons and diplomacy could not. Elena smiled as they headed back to their ship. There were probably people out there right now who needed help, and the crew of the Hippocrates would be ready for them, whatever the cost. After all, that's what doctors did. They healed people, even the ones who had been trying to kill them 5 minutes earlier, especially those ones